My name is James Kaelan. I'm the screenwriter on Before the Spring. I wrote and directed a film called Eel, starring Aaron Ramsey, who's one of the producers on this project. And it was our collaboration on Eel that led into Before the Spring, long before we knew what it was actually going to turn into. I'd been following the Arab Spring closely in Egypt and in Tunisia, and then later in Libya and Syria, which is still going on. So I had, I wouldn't say I had a personal connection to the story, but I had a deep fascination. And after Aaron and Miriam had proposed the idea of telling a story related to the revolution, I started doing research, I started reading. But it's hard as an American, even as an Arab American living on American soil, to sort of understand what it means to live under a repressive regime or live under a semi-repressive regime that then revolts and have your fairly normal life upended effectively by war. It's just easy, this many miles from these conflict zones, to think that it can't happen here and use that as an excuse for not empathizing with the victims, either of repressive regimes or the casualties of these revolutions. As I got deeper into my research, the figure of Khaled Said, he was just an ordinary, sort of antisocial kid, was into computers and had gotten a hold of some sort of damning evidence of some police brutality. And he ended up being taken out of an internet cafe in Alexandria by two plainclothes police officers, and he was beaten to death in a courtyard outside of the cafe while like 30 or 40 people were watching, and no one did anything. The anti-police sentiment really coalesced after the death of Khaled Said, and the revolution that started on January 25th was, if not a direct result of that, certainly inspired by that. And so the story that we started to construct in early 2012 was about an Egyptian-American kid named Tamer, who had been born in Egypt, who grows up mostly in the US, educated in the US, and returns after graduate school to Cairo a few years before the revolution starts. And then as the revolution starts, he gets sucked into the vortex of the revolution without really desiring to. He's not an activist. He doesn't set out to, overthrow Mubarak. He is actually has no interest in being involved whatsoever, but due to forces outside of his control, is sucked into action through a couple of personal tragedies. For a moment, he slips right into this revenge cycle. He's going to take out his anger on them, and the only way to diffuse that is for someone to unilaterally say, I'm not going to continue participating in violence. I'm not going to seek revenge. And at the end of the film, that's what Tamer does. He changes his mind, and he forgives them.